We should be thinking about the fact that each of our days needs to be as good as possible, because even today we're not promised tomorrow. This new phase, this is what I have to try to redefine.
The lessons you're going to learn firsthand will apply to anybody in different areas of their own pursuits.
Jay, it's what is this, Tuesday afternoon?
Let me guess, it's hard to believe it's already June.
No, not at all. I was going to skip that part. Well, it is an afternoon. We're here at the RLS Wealth World Headquarters at the table together, so it must be time for another next episode.
Next episode, yes sir.
All right, here we go. But before we jump in it, I just want to take a moment and digress off of my schedule here a little bit. Just since yesterday was June 6th and the 78th anniversary of D-Day, I was watching the evening news, and they had two veterans from that who turned 100. And since my topic today was talking about a meaningful longevity, since we've been exploring, the next my encore presentation, what that all means, and we've been stepping through preparing for it and transitioning to it, I was struck by the two gentlemen as they were interviewing them. They were walking down the beach, two gentlemen 100 years old. They need a little bit of help, but they were still nonetheless. So I'm thinking, man, 100 years old to begin with, two gentlemen survived that mission. Man, what a meaningful kind of longevity they have had, participating in such a, world event, changing event in our history, what their lives must have been after that event, and even today. It brought to mind also one of the topics you had talked about when you mentioned humility and what that meant, and how we're doing ourselves a disservice by teaching everybody to be humble. Because one question they asked the one gentleman was, what he thought about fighting, and what does he feel when they call him a hero? And he said he wasn't a hero, that he was just doing his job, being a soldier. So that came to light, your question about humility, teaching humility. Here's this gentleman, 100 years old, fought in that battle, asked what he thought about a hero, and he said, I'm not a hero. Mm-hmm. So I thought about that as well, because you were mentioning what does that mean, and do we do ourselves some disrespect of not kind of fighting? But I know that's not necessarily spot on, because I don't know that you want to think about fighting in a war or serving in that capacity as, nothing more than being humble, doing that kind of work, versus I hit this project out of the park and want to sing my praises. But nonetheless, that thought came to mind after I read your article on humility.
I think it's so. I think my thought behind it still applies to that scenario, though. Like the point. So I wrote a blog post over on my personal blog of things I've been thinking about as I've been going on this spiritual journey that I've been going, and questioning why, and why are we told the things we are? Is it because it's the right thing, or is it because there's higher forces trying to kind of corral us and control us in a certain way? My thought was, if more people were less humble, and I don't mean be arrogant jerks and narcissists, but were more comfortable celebrating their successes and what they do well and sharing that, would more people pull inspiration from that, and then therefore those people would go on and do more. But we're taught to be humble, and we don't celebrate the things we do. We don't talk about what we're good at, because we don't want to be thought of as being arrogant or bragging. And there is a fine line. So in that gentleman's situation, I don't think he has to run around and say, bow down to me, I'm a war hero. But when somebody asks him, how do you feel about being looked at as a hero? I would have much rather heard him say, I don't necessarily consider myself a hero, but I understand why people would. I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to play a part of this, and this is the good that came from it because we did this. Because then that inspires somebody. I could go be a part of the military and do something that's meaningful and changes the trajectory of the world and has a positive impact. So it's all in the delivery. It's all in the way, and you do it. I think you can humbly be confident and inspire other people. So I think I would have rather heard him say what I just said. Like, be like, own that that's what he did. Own that that is very heroic. He put his life at risk to help and serve other people, and use that as a launching pad to inspire somebody else to do something potentially similar.
Yeah, I would agree, Jay. And I think, though, not to take this into this discussion on humility and what that means, of which I think we probably could do a discussion around all that. But I also think, too, it just highlights, kind of a generational progress with the being humble and not blowing your own horn.
Yeah,
and
because
things
if
of
he
that
was
nature.
today,
Because if he was today, I think he would probably answer that way a little bit more so.
no, because if
and
today would
such.
have happened, he would have all like pictures would have been on Instagram. He would have been on TikTok talking about those things.
Yeah.
A business would have driven from it, and he would continue to talk about that most likely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is a difference. It was much harder to share that story back then. All you could do is share it with your local community, and
Right.
it kind of died there.
Right.
But yeah,
But I also think, too, though, Jade, not that it marks a difference between that greatest, which they've been labeled, the greatest generation ever, which, I think really is applicable to them, indeed, in many ways. But I also feel that it's a part of that generation where doing what they had to do was nothing more than just doing what they had to do, and they didn't need anything else from it, or there was no need to drive from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they then came back home, did what we kind of talked about, right? Led that linear life, got married, went to work, raised a family, lived their life. Hopefully, all their children, did well. Family didn't have any health issues, and then didn't have any disruptors, and here he is, 100 years old.
Mhm.
Again, the segment wasn't long enough to dig into some of that, but I also was kind of good at the end. The one gentleman, the news analyst was talking to, said, "Okay, so what do you think about what you did, and why you did all this?" And he said, and he looked into the camera and said, "I did this for you. Don't screw it up." So it also made me pause for a moment, thinking about us, this extraordinary world we're living in, all the things that are happening. And here was this gentleman then said, "Hey, I did this for you. Don't screw it up." And I thought that was kind of a good point, especially in this day and age. So anyhow, that's my little diversion, and also kind of a recognition of yesterday being that anniversary of D-Day. Here we are, day after. So now getting into our next episode here. Spoiler was, the discussion point today is about living this meaningful longevity, having the longevity we've been talking about in this phase of our life, to do a new encore. We've stepped through some planning. We've talked about time management, and last episode I tried to discuss a little bit about the whole social aspect and networking and how critical that is to this phase of our life. And when I stepped back and watched that episode, last week, I looked at it and wasn't quite happy with my delivery and my point. So before we jump a little bit further, I'm going to address just a little bit more my intention of that discussion around social networking and the impact it has to our life at this point in time. What I really wanted to make known was the fact that, as we addressed, it does serve a very important part in our life, as it always does, but I think it even means so much more now as we begin to reassess, our network shrinks a little bit. So my point that I wanted to drive home, that I did not do, at least I felt I didn't do very well last week, was just drawing out that so much of our life being driven by our work years, and our network is developed and grows because of the fact that we have much more interaction during our work years with a variety of people. That just has a compound effect on numbers of people we can have, grow close to, develop some relationship with. And my problem was, I had that habit of drawing too much of a relationship in individuals I meet along the way, recognizing that in many cases they're situational, and we're blessed if we can just take a couple of those with us. So what I was talking about in our last episode was just that disconnect that I was having from, okay, letting go of that past, recognizing that most of those individuals are not going to come with me, and the need to find and attract find and look for others that I can attract and bring in as to however I redefine myself going forward. So I just wanted to jump back into that a little bit, because when I looked at it, I just didn't feel I did a good job last time. I was just maybe going through and preparing for it. I was also taking that walk down memory lane and recognizing the number of people who are no longer here with us anymore, those who were very influential to me that are no longer with us, those that I felt I had a stronger relationship with that, quickly have moved off, and that was a bit, disturbing to me a little bit with a couple of them anyways. So I think that kind of influenced my delivery last episode. So I just wanted to retouch that a little bit here. And to the audience, I think, again, the key point is that reaching out and when we're trying new things, that we are, as you said, when we talked last, that's where you're going to find your new connections, and that'll develop it. Whether or not you have many this time around in this encore, I think now, as I'm thinking forward, it's not that critical.
Quantity over quality.
Right.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah,
quality over quantity.
Exactly. As it always should be. So this discussion that we're having and have been about the encore in these years, as we've also mentioned, can apply with any transition. New job, new city, new neighborhoods, even new friends you come in contact with for various reasons. So I just wanted to step back and talk about that one more point before I jumped into this meaningful longevity discussion here today with us. So as I said, we've talked through planning from a financial area. We've talked about the whole transition to health insurance with Medicare. We talked a little bit about the social networking, time management, and we haven't really addressed kind of the whole health exercise portion of how we make sure this longevity stays with us, and we really have a chance to have a nice longevity. That's a significant part of our time anyways throughout our life. But when we're younger, we have the luxury of being young and having that ability to heal quickly, to exercise a little heavier. Now that you cross over into that 60 decade, each day we kind of get a little slower. We may get a little fatter. We may get a little, more pain here and there simply because that's what happens to us. But I think there's the opportunity for us to also ignore that, right, Jay? I mean, again, it is as good as you want it to be, and you make it. So we have the opportunity, the fact that we are healthier now, and if we don't have any major issues, health issues, to take that step out and do more about our health and if you would ratchet up or maybe ratchet down the exercise that we need to stay healthy throughout these years and live that really healthy life well into our 80s and 90s. So last episode, I mentioned a book that was given to me by Bill Zilligan. And once again, shout out to Bill for this book, because it's really a great read, called Younger Next Year. Now, I referenced it last episode because there's a chapter in there about making sure you spend time speaking to your spouse or your partner or companion about retirement, and if they're kind of prepared for it just as you're preparing for it. But the majority of the book really focuses upon the whole kind of health exercise world that we need to be focusing on. And it's written by a doctor. His name is Henry, or they reference him as Harry Lodge. He's a world-renowned internist. And then his partner, Chris Crowley, who's more the kind of guinea pig and the one who does a lot of it through his eyes, because he's actually lived this plan. And the doctor has kind of 7 rules. And the majority of the rules are about health and exercise. And the idea of exercising 6 days a week, 4 of those days being kind of a very heavy cardio, and then 2 of the days using weight training, weightlifting for your joints and muscles, and how all that can help us stay not only healthy, but even kind of ward off having a lot of difficulties we may normally experience. Now, the book does, I think, an incredible job of weaving in kind of the knowledge of medicine, science, in a very witty, kind of humorous way. So it's an easy read, so it's not very, kind of analytical or or methodical about all of that lessons to learn. But it does link and make you understand the physiological and biological developments that need to be addressed and how you take care of that. So I don't want to make this session all about that, but not being an expert, I don't want us to be saying to folks, well, you need to go out and do this. I think you need to really, first of all, stay solid with your annual checkups and meet with your doctor to talk about just what kind of exercise program you can really engage in. If you can, reach out to find a trainer who can help you with what you need to do, especially with weights, or else, you end up injuring yourself and then you have other problems. But I think for us to have an enjoyable encore in our life and take advantage of the longevity that we're being blessed with these days, we have to put more work into our health and exercise as well. I mean, we all know about eating better, and we all try to do our best. The book also describes some things to do, but they're also very strong in their dialogue around that. Of, again, not only just the name of the book, right? Stronger, younger next year, meaning that nothing should be short term. Everything's got to be long term. But he also talks about not losing that pound. So he's also spends a lot of time making sure that you are cognizant about losing too much weight. So I think for this afternoon's discussion, I just want to mention the fact that we need to take care of our health. We need to exercise maybe more than we've done in prior years. Because again, we have the time, right? Now that we're retired, we have a little bit more time and we can build that in, and not to make it a job, but to make it sort of a way of life to help us stay healthy so that we can enjoy these years that are given to us. So I just wanted to make that mention there because I don't want to spend time talking about, well, this is the kind of weight training you should do, this is the kind of exercising you should do, because everybody's different, right? Whether you're walking, whether you're biking, or now that you're 40 and you decide you want to go out and skateboard now and be a skater once again. It's just a reference to a trip that Jay took with Leo, and they were on the West Coast and did some skateboarding. So now he's a skater. If you notice, he's got a hat on, got his sunglasses on over here as such. But so just kidding. But no, they talk about the idea of doing something, right? Every day is critical. And we should be able to do that in our encore because we have the time. But
I will go out on a limb as not an expert to say that weight training should definitely be a part of it. And I'm actually surprised that it's not flipped the other way, that you should have 4 days of weight training and 2 days of cardio. But that's the tough thing about all this, is that you can read one book and be told one thing and read another and be told another. I think a big part of it is just experimenting what works best and what you enjoy, but definitely getting out and moving. And I've read studies that says walking is just as good, if not better, than running. And I hate running. And I look at everybody who runs along Geist reservoirs. I'm driving to the office, and no one looks like they're enjoying themselves. I don't understand why people go for that run. And part of me wants to get into running just because I know it's a mental roadblock I have and why I hate it. So I want to overcome that mental roadblock. But I'm like, I don't want to spend time doing something I don't enjoy. I'll rather ride the Peloton or skateboard, or I'll get my running in sprinting around with the boys. But I'm not going to go for a 5-mile run because that's miserable. And it's not good for your joints. It's not good for your knees. So anyways, I think weight training is way more important. Obviously, you need some cardio for your heart, but weight training is very important. And you get a good cardio workout through weight training, depending on how you do it, body weight stuff, and building strength as you get older. That muscle strength is going to be even more important, whether it is core strength, so you're not slouched over. There's tons of things. So I think that weight training should be a big part of it. But getting up and moving every day is important. And
that's critical.
You're talking about encore life, but I think that if we think about a financial plan, and this is something I wanted to do at RLS Wealth, but I never did it. I think that part of your financial plan should be accounting for your health as well. You need to be investing in yourself just as much as you invest in your long-term investments, because what good is it for me to save and invest and get to a point that I can retire at pick an age, 65, 66, but if I don't invest in my health and try to control as much of it as I can't enjoy it. There's going to be some health ailments and some cards that are dealt that we just can't control, but there's a lot of control that we have that we should be doing more. The exercise, the eating healthier, the not falling victim to, this is the way we've always eaten, we should do that. And when you start to, go down the conspiracy theory routes of who controls the food pyramid and why that is, and all the like follow the dollars. Like we've been told to eat poorly our whole lives, and making changes there will be an investment because the healthiest foods tend to be the more expensive foods, and that's all by design. So anyways, I don't think you have to wait till retirement. I think that as you're planning for your life, you should be incorporating taking care of yourself as a part of your budget, whether it's a big part of it or a small part, but you need to account for it so that when you get to be your age, you're healthy enough to be able to play one-on-one with your 9-year-old grandson like you did the other day.
Yeah, definitely, Jay. And that's why I want to just reference, as you said, there are many books out there. This one was, Bill gave it to me. It was a great read and can learn a lot because, again, what I liked about it was the weaving in of the medicine, and the physiological, aspects of our life and how our bodies actually are tuned and how they operate and how the exercise diet works, to strengthen those and why you've got to do these things like move every day. Very quickly, they talk about it because of the aspect of, when through evolution, our bodies were designed, to be ready to hunt and to fight, right? And those are inherent sort of electrical connections, both at the mind and muscular, physiological levels of our body. And if you don't do those things, then those have detrimental effects to you. So you're right, and then they talk about the idea of the weight training more so for us older folks, for the idea of joints and muscles so that we can do some things. So I think that's important for us to cover in our little, discussion around this topic of transitioning into this encore performance, because like you said, if we don't have our body in good shape, it's not going to matter that we did everything else right.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're not going to be able to take advantage of being at this phase of life if we're sitting around and it pains us to get up and down, or we can't get out and enjoy being out in the yard anymore. Although we're going to hurt working in the yard, laying down some sod and digging stuff up, we're going to have those aches and pains. But at least we have aches and pains that'll go away. So I think that's an important part for us. And by doing that, we've kind of checked off all the preparations that we can do. Now it's the idea of just living and making those a part of our life so that, we are having good days about it. But as I was going through this too, Jay, talking about the longevity, I also was thinking about, a song popped into my head in the verse of tomorrow's not promised today. Can't remember whose lyrics that was, but just coming back like tomorrow's not promised today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also critical for us to recognize that, we do know we're never promised tomorrow. But the idea that, we should be thinking about the fact that each of our days needs to be as good as possible, because even today we're not promised tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And also some of these Yogi Berra isms came to mind. He had one that also said, the future ain't what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is very true as well. Just as I can attest to it, the future ain't what I thought it was going to be as well. And that's a good thing. Even though we may be concerned about some of the matters in front of us and what the future may hold. But I think the idea is that we need to understand that it shouldn't be as we thought it was, so that we don't get caught in just doing what we thought we were supposed to do. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think if we do ourselves a disservice if we're not, expanding our reaches, giving ourselves up for a chance, and living a different life than we ever thought before, because that's what life is supposed to be about, as we learn. And I'm learning that. I think that's one thing I'm beginning to recognize now, as I'm, taking each day, each week now, is that, man, even though life was good, it's even getting even better now because I'm relaxing more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you definitely helped me doing that, recognizing that I just need to let it be, put things out there, and following the Jay Shetty kind of mindset now of doing my little bit of meditation, and surprisingly how his one little recommendation about breathing does work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm amazed when I do that every morning and every night, what a difference I just sense and feel. And also, how it's helping my blood pressure as well. So that's a good thing. Since I got myself in that situation before leaving the workforce. And I also have now realized, Jay, going through this exercise, that there really is sort of a cycle that's naturally built into this transition. Not just a transition to retirement in my encore, but had I recognized this earlier in my life, it's a transition to any sort of change in life. I mean, we do encounter changes in life. There are disruptors that happen throughout our life, and it does seem that even when you have those, as well as this one that's kind of a planned disruptor of making this change, that there are kind of phases. They're natural phases. Like the first is, and we talked a little bit about it, was you kind of have a little bit of a mourning phase where you think about where you've been, what you did. We talked about that, I think, in our first episode or the second one, about how I determined whether I felt I was successful in my career and my earlier life. But you kind of also think about what you're missing or what you need to release. So you got this kind of natural little mourning period, kind of reflection of where you've been and what's going on. And that just happens naturally, maybe because that's, as humans, what we do. I don't know. But I did see that and do see that still happening, that I'm still catching myself from time to time reflecting on where I've been and how well I've done. And that includes this little encore. How well have I done up until this point in time? Then you get into this phase of I'm calling cleaning house, trying to let go of bad habits, trying to learn to create new habits, better habits, new ways of learning and accepting change that I've never done in the past, which is challenging in some respects, that leads to that opportunity. I also was going to come back and talk a little bit about challenge not being a positive word, but I'm going to let that go as such. But it is good in this cleaning house, and also recognizing that one thing that I'm not good at, that I need to get better at, and hopefully in this phase I will do so, is quit being so damn linear. Thinking that I've got to go through the change or make this adjustment, taking step one before I go to step two. I'm seeing now that that's not necessary. I mean, I'm recognizing more now that life isn't linear. It shouldn't be. Granted, there are those steps that come in that linear fashion because we don't have any control over it. But I know for myself now, doing this little checks and balances and making my way into my encore, that I did do things too linear and didn't do much to try to challenge that. I don't really have a good answer as to why, other than that's just how I thought I was.
It's because that's how you were taught.
And how it just seemed to work out, right? Right. Granted, taught, but also it seemed to work out, right? I mean, as I did this, these sort of recognitions came along, this little advancement came, this opportunity presented itself, and it just seemed to make sense. And it was keeping me in line with the progress I had hoped to have made and what was good for us as a family and what was good for me as an individual in my career development and growth, in getting to that level. But I also now look at it and go, geez, yeah, if I would have just maybe flipped this switch a little earlier or made this change. And another yogi-ism is you come to a fork in the road, take it, right? So maybe I should have taken a couple more forks in the road at the time as well. So maybe now I will take when that happens, as these, there are still forks in the road coming, right? Life doesn't stop. Life continues. And in this phase of life, those forks in the road are slightly different, in that they're not brought about necessarily by work, which for most of us in those days drives most of your day because you spend way too much time there. So now the forks in the road are because of what life presents you. And now those opportunities come about and I need to take those. So I'm learning to take maybe some better chances. I can't say that I've done it yet, but I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable in making that change. And that's what I'm thinking this encore is about, is forcing you to become uncomfortable with yourself, to do some things that you didn't do before, maybe because I felt I couldn't, or I was afraid to do it because the disruption it may have, presented to the family at the time or to mom. When I did take that chance, it was kind of a planned chance, right? I mean, a new job opportunity, even though it took me away and I had to work in Baltimore for a while, or the Cincinnati, juncture time phrase. Those were planned and accepted, and we made it work. Those weren't plans I would have made on my own, like, oh, well, let me go seek this job that was somewhere else. That's not something I think I would be even comfortable today in doing. So I'm trying to do better of cleaning house, getting better habits about myself, how I'm looking at my relationships, what I need to do for myself and for what I need to do for mom and for us. And that would make this time a little better time as well. I think the opportunities and chances I need to take to better position myself to enjoy, the grandkids, that surprisingly is very easy. You kind of look at it a little differently than I did when, you and Kristen were young. I don't know why that is, but it does seem to present itself where to say, well, I can do these kinds of things with the grandkids where maybe I didn't do that with you and Kristen. And now I could say to myself, I should have done that. I should have done that with you guys when you were younger. But we did what we did, and that's where we were at. So that's what I'm saying. I think as I'm going through this time, I'm looking at this as another way of experiencing that with you and Kristen at a different phase of life. And maybe that's a good thing.
I couldn't imagine being in your head. You analyze so much. And it's good. I probably should spend more time analyzing some stuff, but the over analysis, that's got to be something you work on. Just do things because it feels
That's
right,
good.
because you want to do it, not because of anything other than that. And they don't even go back and reflect about it unless it is to see how much you actually enjoyed it.
Or to learn,
But to be analyzing what you're doing with the grandkids and then thinking back to you should have done that with us. You should be analyzing what you do with your grandkids and just thinking about how much fun you had, not worrying about what you should or could have done with us.
Well, I think that's a good point, Jay, and I think why I do that is to know that I did all right.
I don't know what more evidence you need in those. You shouldn't even be thinking about raising us, other than it's reflecting on memories. But you should be, did I do a good job or not?
Well, I
think
know I did a good job.
You can look at your kids and say you did a good job.
Yeah. Well, you guys did a lot of good to get where you're at now, and I guess all I was saying with that is I'm just seeing that this phase, this encore, is allowing me, to make that sort of adjustment. Mm-hmm. And you're right. So my head gets a little bit too much, into analysis of looking at it and saying, well, could I have done this? Because again, I can't rewrite it. Right. I mean, let's put it this way: I can't rewrite it for you and Kristen. I can rewrite it for myself and mom and how I am with the grandkids, but I also can rewrite it for how and what you and I can do, or what I can do with Kristen, and what we can do as a family differently as we grow older. But I think it's just a matter of figuring that out and allowing me to be comfortable, mm-hmm. which is my message to those out there. And again, even though I'm focusing on this encore, we've been trying to couch this across any phase of life. So my message to those listening is the fact that I think it's just a matter of recognizing to not do what I did, but to kind of be more comfortable with what we're talking about here, mm-hmm. and chancing yourself and doing it. And if we could bring a little bit of a thought to someone to be a little bit more relaxed, or I can bring that to someone to be okay, that's a good thing. Makes it all worthwhile. Because I don't, again, as we spoke, I don't have any regrets. I think things are good. I want to make sure that I don't have myself in another cycle where I'm thinking too much and not enjoying and being grateful until a much later stage in life. One, because, like we said, tomorrow's not promised today. And even though we feel comfortable about having another 30 years, I don't want to regret not doing something and then wake up, one day and I'm no longer here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it from a different side of the mirror. So again, in the cleaning house phase, I think it just kind of happens, and I'm seeing that it is occurring, and I'm recognizing that, which is a good thing. And then finally, we have again the encore, right? We have this time when we get to reintroduce ourselves to our life, and maybe even in a way be kind of our autobiography, right? And a way to reintroduce not only ourselves, but to rewrite what we're going to do in our next phase of our life, and rewrite a story that's better. And I was thinking that, you know, kind of a way of looking at it is you taking an afternoon drive or a drive in the country or a drive through the wine country in Northern California, right? We have the vehicle we're driving in, and that's our body. So we got to take care of that vehicle so that the journey can be at least decent, and we're not off on the side of the road struggling with, you know, a car problem. Then while we're driving, we got to make sure that we have, you know, the time to enjoy it with, you know, our spouse, our partner, our companion, and how important that is to take care of that. So that's a good drive, that you're just not sitting there like, you know, your mom would say about me, you know, I just sit there and drive and, you know, not have the right conversations or not enjoying the scenery. So that's going to be important as well when I rewrite this phase and do that, to be more open to, oh, let's just stop right here and get out and enjoy what's there, rather than I got to get from here to there and move off and not make that experience a part of my memory, and do that, as well as the need to settle into this fact that this part of life is in some ways a longer part of our life than even our earlier years, because it's just us, it's just me, you know, rather than worrying about what needs to get done at work, what needs to get done at the house, where we're going, what we need to do for the kids. Now it's a matter of us enjoying this important time. So it's a time to make it meaningful at various levels, as well as get into that opportunity of getting out and trying something new, whatever that might be. You know, I mentioned maybe taking a class. It'd be great if I had a little bit of artistic ability to get into maybe learning to draw and paint. You know, that would be kind of a fun thing to do. And
So why not do it?
so we'll have to try and do it. You know, try to get beyond my stick figure drawings, and
There are people
I
who-
can compete. I can compete with Leo and Silas and Trevin and Caius, since all of them, you know, and Roman too. He's not drawing as much as he used to, but I found a few that. So with all of them, I can compete a little bit maybe with the grandkids, because they all have some really nice artistic ability in them, which is a great thing to see. But I think that's, you know, this longevity piece and discussion that I've been having is becoming more critical, I think, to my thought process. Not in the sense of, geez, I don't have that much time left, or this is the older phase of my life, but turning that into one of saying, this is an exciting part of my life, maybe more so than everything else has been exciting, and enjoy that in a way that provides me the satisfaction that I missed along the way, or to be grateful for what's in front of me and enjoying all the little episodes that come about naturally in life, and not waiting for them to happen, but to create them. So I'm seeing this as a way to draw upon some change, to draw upon making new roads in which to travel, whatever those roads may be and where they lead, is not so much now defining them, but to just get in the car and kind of go, see where they lead and what excitement comes about from it. And then allowing, you know, the success to develop, but in a way that success is defined more as a relaxed moment in time. So my words today is just to take this time and look at it in a way that is more for you, recognizing the fact that we are blessed with the longevity that exists at this time in our life. To have those years is a blessing, to make necessary change a part of, not just a part of your vocabulary, but a part of your daily life
Mm-hmm.
and not look upon it as work, which, as you well know, I used to do a lot too. I used to make everything more of a job than what it needed to be. And I need to make sure that I don't fall victim to that kryptonite. And I think it's still easy to do that, to fall victim to it. As I mentioned when we talked about time management, you look at the day, and I look at the day and go, okay, what do I need to do now? What's next? And I really shouldn't have that mentality, because it doesn't need to be that I'm supposed to be here or there, except for time spent doing some things, but more of an opportunity to make it lasting for myself, and be more selfish. So that's kind of what I wanted to hit today. Take us, a little bit more on the journey of change, more on the journey of transition, but one of which to look at it in a meaningful way that's beneficial to us. So with that, Jay, I'm gonna close out today. Finish up with the idea that we never quit searching, we never stop settling, and we always keep searching for that greater purpose. So until the next time we're together, let's make the most of each day and look forward to the next episode.
Sounds good.
All right, Jay, it was a pleasure, man. Have a good one.
See you on the next episode.